What's up, everybody? Welcome to the AllSooners Podcast, episode 195. Boys, we are together. We are in Jerry World. We're in AT&T Stadium for what? For Big 12 Media Days. Day 2, we're wrapping it up. They're trying to get us out of here, so we're going to do this thing quick. No breaks, one long segment. You guys are going to love this because we're talking same thing that everybody was talking about today. Boomer Sooners are leaving the Big 12, and it turns out the celebration the 1 year celebration, as you said, lasted all of one day.
Yeah, Big 12, it was petty this week, the last 2 days, last 48 hours. Sonny Dykes throwing shots at Missouri and A&M, saying I don't see them playing in a bunch of SEC championship games. Just for the record, I'd like it note for history, Missouri has played in as many SEC title games as TCU has played in Big 12 championship games, and they've won the same number. Just throwing that out there. The Big 12 football czar, deputy director, said that Oklahoma and Texas would rather lose to Alabama and Georgia instead of Kansas State and Iowa State. Way to dunk on your own teams there, I guess. And yeah, I guess the real question leaving here today, before we dive in, is this the last All-Sooners trip to Jerry World for a while?
It is going to be, well, until maybe possibly December.
That's the question. That's the question.
We're not coming back before December. I don't think the Rams are playing here.
Gold Cup is not rolling through, yeah.
So they're trying to get us out of here. They're cleaning up the mess behind us. As you can see, they're taking down the lights.
It was a mess, too.
It was something. What stood out to me was, Tim Weiser, deputy commissioner. Yesterday, Brett Yormark said we're going to celebrate Oklahoma and Texas's contributions over the past 27 years, and there have been a lot of contributions, and these have been great members. Today, the deputy commissioner came out, as Ryan mentioned. Tim Weiser's his name. On radio, it wasn't like a public forum or a press conference, but where did that come from? He said essentially Texas, I guess they wanted to get beat by Alabama rather than Iowa State, and then he said he called Oklahoma, what was it, the reluctant bride?
Yeah. Basically
doing whatever Texas tells it to do. I don't know if his words were sanctioned by the commissioner, or if this was one of those, what was his name, Iraqi Bob or whatever, disinformation campaign where they say, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be the good cop, you're going to come in, the next day you're going to be the bad cop. It's possible.
It is possible, and I mean it does beg the question, if this is what they're saying about OU and Texas out in the open, what are the conversations they're having behind closed doors about those two programs that are leaving the conference? And I think that's where we've seen a lot of OU and Texas fans join together and say, hey, we don't want to be treated unfairly our final year in the Big 12.
Yep.
Name calling and saying things at Big 12 Media Day is one thing, but if that translates to officiating and calls on the field, then that could be very impactful for Texas and Oklahoma this season.
What was the metric last year, you guys? Was there one holding penalty called against the offensive line that Oklahoma's defense was playing against, or something like that in 12 games?
Yeah, something
absurd
crazy.
like that. Yeah.
Now, you do have to have a functioning defensive line to draw holding flags. Right. No one had any trouble blocking Oklahoma last year, but the numbers are still. It's uncommon. It would take uncommon effort for the opposing team to only hold once against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And while we're mentioning what was said about OU and Texas, Yormark yesterday said that OU and Texas hadn't carried the conference in recruiting, which statistically, I mean, they have.
Yeah, they have. Let's be honest. Let's talk about 5 stars. How many 5 stars has Texas signed? How many 5 stars has Oklahoma signed? How many 5 stars has the rest of the conference signed combined over 27 years? Not anywhere close. They have absolutely carried the conference in recruiting.
Brett Yormark yesterday said he's not a college football guy. Last year was his first experience in college football. I don't think that was he wrong? Yes. Should we hold Brett Yormark to be the oracle of college football recruiting news? That's probably on you.
He's on a learning curve. He's a basketball guy. He's an East Coast guy. He's a West Coast guy. He comes to Oklahoma, fly over state to do a little football commissionering, and it's kind of slipping through his fingers a little bit at times. But otherwise, let me just say, and Venables said this as well, he's doing a hell of a job to raise the profile of the Big 12 Conference. You got to give it up to him for that. And we did, I think, maybe on last week's podcast or something. I can't remember. Anyway, Sooners went today. Everybody went today. The other 6 teams, we're not going to get into those guys too much, because you guys are interested in OU football. So OU football, Brent Venables, obviously, Dylan Gabriel, obviously, Drake Stoops talked today, Jonah Laulu talked today, and Danny Stutzman was the 4th one. So pretty good representation, offense, defense, culture-wise, leadership-wise. I think all those guys kind of stood out today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that hearing them talk about the young players and how excited they were, not only to mentor them, but how far along those young players have come, I thought that was really refreshing to hear. They had great things to say about the rooms that they're in, respectively, the receiver room and Danny Stutzman mentioning the linebacker and the defensive line room, saying that they're 8 or 9 deep there with guys that they think are really good. And, we were just talking about how porous the defensive line was last year. So if Stutzman's words are true, then that's something that OU fans are going to like to hear.
I'm just glad you guys heard anything. The breakouts were a disaster as far as trying to just listen to a soft-spoken guy like Dylan Gabriel and Drake Stoops. A lot of my face-to-face came from interviewing Dylan Gabriel and Danny Stutzman on radio, where I could actually hear them. And Danny Stutzman, but Brent Venables from the podium talked about Stutzman being not just a leader, but a guy that 17 months ago wouldn't have been a guy you tasked to lead a player-only workout or a player-only practice, and how many steps Oklahoma and Danny Stutzman himself is taken in that direction. And what was it? Efficiency, the buzzword of the day for Brent Venables, as far as becoming more efficient in every aspect of the program, from practices to kind of their off-season audit, looking back on themselves, self-scouting, and seeing what Oklahoma wants to do differently in 2023.
When I asked Danny Stutzman about what he improved the most this offseason, he actually repeated that, and he said efficiency, working on his efficiency himself.
Something that's interesting to me is don't judge Danny Stutzman by his haircut. He's got kind of a Prince Valiant frosted perm going right now. He's all about business. He's enjoying the limelight, and he's enjoying being here, but the kid is all about business. He says he's going to cut it into a mullet at the end of the season or something like that. Hey, you got Quinn Ewers yesterday cutting his mullet off because he's all grown up and serious now. Danny Stutzman going the other way.
Yeah, Jaron Kanik, I guess, is having that influence on the linebacker room. Those two guys, we found out today that they got their katanas on Twitter from a gas station. That's been my number one concern all offseason, is like the quality of the blacksmithing on that blade. It's gas station katanas, so watch out.
Can I tell you guys a secret? I also have a katana that I bought at a gas station.
Oh, yeah?
1986.
Do you often go to war with your friends on Twitter?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, it's been in a closet, way up in the closet, away from the kids. It's Cheapo Depot. It's the Cherokee Trading Post out on I-40.
Oh, gotcha.
West of Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Maybe you could dust it off and join Danny and
right.
and Jaron.
I'll just wear it to the press conference. see if they want to spar. What else stood out to you about Venables today? I asked him a question in particular about how you changed, because if you ask his players, hey, has Venables changed? No, he doesn't change. He's the same guy that recruited me. He's the same guy that I talked to. He's the same guy yesterday, same guy last year. So I asked Brent, Brent, you're notorious for not changing. How have you evolved? And he goes, that's the word, is evolved. I'm not changing. I'm the same guy. I do things the same way. But he said, I also learn from 6 and 7. I also evolve. And I thought that was pretty telling, his answer. But anything else stand out to you?
No, I just kind of piggybacked on that. Becoming a head coach, the pedigree, working under Bill Snyder, Bob Stoops, Dabo Sweeney, we talked about it, about as good an education as you could have. But when you're the guy calling the shots, it's a different can of worms, especially when you're someone as detail-oriented as Brent Venables. He had talked about in, I think it was the opening week press conference last year, that he's never not going to be a whiteboard guy and stuff like that. So the question was going to become, was Brent Venables taking too much on his own shoulders? Was he too bogged down in the details to be the CEO at Oklahoma? And something he talked about a ton is listening to his coaching staff, listening to his players. That doesn't mean that every idea thrown your way is exactly, just because John said this, we need to do that. You listen to John, evaluate, does what he's saying make sense with our culture, what we're trying to do this week, all that stuff. That sounded to me like someone who was able to maybe take a step back and say, I either tried to do too many things or I wasn't as receptive to how can we change things and adjust on the fly when things weren't perfect. Stuff that you can only find, I think, going through 1 year as a head coach and then building on it.
What you said is right. I had a conversation with Dave Wilson from ESPN just maybe an hour ago before we started recording about ball coaches who just want to be ball coaches. And Brent has so much information, so much detail in his brain that when he comes to a big event like this, it's hard for him to communicate those little tiny minute details, and then you go and maybe get it to your recruits, and you get it to your players, and you get it to your coaching staff. He just wants to coach ball. But Brent, is the CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation that is OU football. So it's a little bit different. He's figuring the curve, learning on a learning curve, and he's figuring that out as he goes. Year 2, I expect it to be a lot smoother than year 1.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And the players kind of echoed the same sentiment, saying that this offseason was evolution for them, kind of working on some of their physical skill sets and improving. After another summer with Schmitty, and Venables specifically highlighted Jaron Kanak and talked about how inexperienced he was coming out of high school as a defensive player, saying that his high school played him at quarterback, and now they're playing him at linebacker. From what Brent Venables was saying, it sounds like they really are expecting a lot from him this year, and that's definitely a name that Sooner fans should be ready to see on Saturdays.
Was there any reason to think Dillon Gabriel was going to come out here today and be a star? He looked like it to me.
Yeah, so kind of a unique thing, if you allow me, going on a little tangent. Got to spend some time with Dillon Gabriel last year at Big 12 Media Day, walking between some of the radio tables, just a very informal, get to know each other type thing. And you could tell last year, Gabriel was like, oh, I've not been in Cowboy Stadium before. He had commented on the buffet that was brought up. You could just tell that was not the experience he had gotten at UCF. And John and I, behind the scenes, we had talked a lot last year about, was this a guy that comfortable with his own skin, but maybe underestimated, when everyone says being the quarterback at Oklahoma is a different deal. It's a different deal, and I wonder how much an element that played last year. Again, got to have some informal conversations with Dillon Gabriel. It was just smooth. He knew exactly where he was going, calm, cool, collected. What does that mean as far as completion percentage, touchdown-interception ratio? Probably not a lot this fall, but just another instance of the second year knowing what to expect as the quarterback at Oklahoma, knowing what to expect at Big 12 Media Day, how to carry yourself. I think that can only be a good thing as a guy who's most of his college football career is behind him, as he's hoping this is going to be his last year in college.
We got tons and tons and tons of video, plus all kinds of content at AllSooners.com. We got 3 different videos of Brent Venables, so click around, scroll, surf, whatever you want to do. Brent Venables talked for, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and then 35 minutes. So 3 different videos. We got Drake Stoops, we got Dillon Gabriel, we got Jonah Laulu, and of course we got Danny Stutzman. All that stuff is up, all that stuff is posted. It's on there, check it out, enjoy it. You got to listen to Drake Stoops,
yes,
the entire interview. I asked him a couple of questions, but just the fact that he's a 6th-year guy. He has redshirted. He is the son of a coach. He is a former walk-on. He went through COVID. He had 6 quarterbacks? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Something like that. It's amazing the amount of things that he's been through in his career, and I get the feeling. It is what it is. At this point in his career, he's got something like 80 catches. I get the feeling he could be in for a really big season.
Yeah, I think so too. He said that he was really working on his top-end speed over the offseason a lot, which, as an OU fan, you have to love to hear that, given that, his effort, a lot of the technical ability, and, his hands, that's all there. You know that's there. But if he's able to increase that speed, then that could make him a lot more of a dangerous slot receiver than he already was for OU last season. He talked about the depth of the receiver room and how they brought a lot of guys in, and I know that he may be high on those guys, but many of them don't have any experience and none at OU. And so that's what he has over a lot of the other guys in the receiver room, is that experience. And I think that will really help him this year, especially if that top-end speed comes in like he said he was working on this offseason.
Yeah. I got a cool story coming on Jonah Laulu. Asked him several questions today about leadership and why he's here, and a transfer from Hawaii, year 2 of his OU college football career. He's here representing the Oklahoma Sooners at Big 12 Media Day. I thought that was really cool. I asked him some questions about being in the Polynesian culture. He said he's Samoan. They've got guys from Tonga. I talked to Kalani Sitake yesterday from BYU. He told me some things. So that's going to be a really fun story. Ryan, what do you take away from the rest of your experience here at Big 12 Media Days?
Yeah, I think on the Laulu point, another thing too, not just the leadership, but yeah, exactly. Woo! He's the guy that made the move from defensive end to the interior of the defensive line, listed at 293, a huge increase from where he even reported back
33 pounds
after the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yep.
And so we had kind of talked to him about halfway through spring ball, and he was feeling good about it. I'm always fascinated when you add that much weight, you feel sluggish, all that stuff. And some guys are always like, no, the athleticism is still there. Laulu was like, I feel stronger than I've ever been. I feel faster.
He said Schmidt told him he looks better at 292 than he did at 260.
Yeah, and he talked about taking on blocks, shedding would-be blockers, all that stuff. And I think Laulu, and I think he said that he basically is extending his career by being able to slide over to the interior. I think he's kind of getting to see what that frame can hold and how he's filling that out. As a guy that he mentioned in 2021, the effects of the pandemic were delayed in Hawaii because on the island, secluded. He said basically for Hawaii, 2021 was the pandemic when they really experienced that. So he came to Oklahoma, coming out of quarantine, not able to work out, things like that. Interesting to see that maybe the best June Laulu. I don't know what that means as far as him being in the rotation. They've got a huge logjam on the interior suddenly. But Laulu,
it's a good problem to have.
It is. Night and day from last year, that's for sure. Laulu, though, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like in between the defensive ends playing through the middle.
We had a little bit of breaking news today, not here at Jerry World, but just in the world of recruiting.
Yeah.
Randall was on it. Oklahoma landed a 4-star recruit that is actually like a 4.5-star because he's so important. Randall, tell you all about it.
Yeah, so Jaden Jackson is about 6'2", 300 pounds. Another one of those guys we were just talking about with that Polynesian culture. He's from IMG Academy in Florida, meaning he's teammates with David Stone, who's another interior defensive lineman, 5-star from Oklahoma City. That's the guy that OU really, really wants to land. And so getting his teammate, the guy who plays right next to him, that's huge in getting David Stone as well. And getting David Stone, that could in turn help you land a bunch of the other recruits that OU's after along the defensive line with those connections that Stone has. But Jaden Jackson specifically, huge man, strong kid. He can just take up blocks, take up space, push the pocket in the passing game, and just fill gaps in the run game, which is exactly what Oklahoma needs. In his after he committed, he said that within the first 15 minutes of his visit, he knew that Oklahoma was where he wanted to be. And so you hear things like that. You see pictures of him with David Stone. You see David Stone commenting on his commitment videos. You have to not only the commitment that they get from Jaden Jackson, but where that puts them with his teammate and Oklahoma City native David Stone.
Signing a 4-star defensive tackle from Florida of his caliber with those connections, not bad for a reluctant bride.
Absolutely.
Those are SEC players. You get David Stone, maybe you get Williams Nwaneri, maybe you get Nigel Smith. I think these guys are all leaning toward Oklahoma, but if you get one, the next one comes, the next one comes, the next one comes. Pretty soon you've got an SEC defensive line.
Yeah, Oklahoma beat out Ohio State, Tennessee, Miami. Florida was the other hat on the table as well. Can't wait to see Cincinnati pull those same things to carry the conference recruit.
You're just being mean, Ryan.
You bring it upon yourselves. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Right.
There was a lot of easy PR that could have been avoided from the Big 12 this weekend or these past 2 days. And on the podium, they did everything to avoid it. Sonny Dykes did not in the breakouts. Brett Yormark did not on the side. And the associate director did not either. It just seemed like it hadn't felt awkward with OU and Texas.
Yeah.
I think you could really feel it in these last 48 hours that everyone has been talking about this for so long since summer of 2021 after we left Big 12 Media Day that I think that the senioritis is real on the side of Oklahoma and Texas, and the Big 12 is ready to turn the page.
I'm going to do a quick pitch. Give us a follow at @all_Sooners. I'm at John Hoover. Randall Sweet 5 _ Ryan Chapman. Give us all a follow on Twitter. Also, if you like the podcast, like it on the video, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Do all that stuff for us. We appreciate it. And AllSooners, as you know, is free. No sign-ups, no credit cards, no usernames, no passwords. We like the 5-star ratings. I'll just say that. We like the 5-star ratings. So if you could help us out, drop us a 5-star rating. Guys, we'll finish with this. Thad Turnipseed resigned last week. Brent Venables talked about it this week. He said that, doggone it, wish he could have stayed. I mean, he made it sound as simple as that. He expounded and he said, his son, he wants to be able to spend more time. But basically, Thad Turnipseed came here this is the way I understand it. Came here and things were a little bit different than what he thought the challenge was going to be. But essentially he got his job done, which is raising the money or establishing the ability to raise the money for this $175 million project. Brent Venables talked glowingly about him today. So if there's any friction between Type A personalities clashing in the staff room, the administrative room, whatever, Brent Venables did not let on to any of that today.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago. It all runs together.
Yep.
Of the facilities, like the plans are in motion. The Board of Regents has kind of rubber stamped the budget, all that stuff.
Right.
Outside of just cutting the checks, is that all that turnip seed came to Oklahoma to do? And based off how Brent Venables talked about it today, kind of felt like a yes on that front.
One more little bit of breaking news happened right before we started recording. Jocelyn Erickson.
Headed to Florida, not Tennessee. Tim Walton picks up a former Sooner. Jocelyn Erickson, if you remember, came on huge for opening couple of weekends as far as a big bat, but really struggled to find some consistency. Lost out that job in the field at first base to Sydney Sanders. Lost out in right field to Alina Torres in the field. She's just a freshman, so plenty of development to happen. But Patty Gasso would have loved to bounce up that lineup, righty-lefty, as Erickson was a left-handed bat. She just was hit a slump at the worst possible time heading into the postseason and didn't play a huge factor down the stretch.
We knew she was leaving. She announced that early last week or late week before. No big deal because Patty Gasso tweeted the Go Boomer with the two little bombs. She tweeted that like an hour ago, whatever it was, hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago now. So she's happy about something. Sounds like they got another. You probably know who it is.
Looks like maybe addition to the bullpen coming down the pipe.
The pitcher.
And not a name we've talked about thus far. If I need to do a little bit more digging. I was on radio while all that was going down, but I think that round out the pitching staff, we'll know sooner rather than later. Probably the next time we get together and talk.
Okay, before the security team comes over and handcuffs us, zip ties us, and tases us, hopefully, we got to get out of here. Any more thoughts on Big 12 Media today?
I just wanted to say one last thing. Nigel Smith tweeted Boomer Sooner today, which not a commitment. He said he is committing. He told me the last time I spoke to him on the phone that he's committing on September 8th. But given the events today, and him tweeting that has to mean good things for OU.
Any more leftovers?
Bring us our freaking one table per player breakouts. It's not that hard. Not broke, don't fix it. Younger, hipper, cooler does not mean we can't hear anything that's going on, Brett York.
Give us Wi-Fi.
These are our credentials. We got rubber wristbands this year. This does not go with my 950,000 credential collection. And the Wi-Fi here sucks. I bet it's better in the SEC. That's all I'm going to say about it. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week on the AllSooners Podcast, unless there's breaking news and we have to do an emergency pod, right? We'll send you that one podcast, all the podcasts from Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. If you have an Amazon-enabled device, just say, Alexa, play the AllSooners Podcast. It's also posted on our website, allsooners.com. Just listen on your phone, tablet, or your computer. All you got to do is click the link. It's right there at the top of the page. And all our shows are posted on my YouTube channel. That's John Hoover Media. For Randall, for Ryan, I'm Hoove. See you guys.